Burlesque by Kamari333. Chapter 22. Missteps. Lust eventually came back out with lunch, and the three of them returned to the apartment that would now be both Lust's and Red's home. Companionable silence fell, and with it, the energy Lust had apparently been running on. He only seemed to have enough to finish his burger before he drifted off, slumping into Dance's side. Dance felt the weight of him, comfortable and familiar and warm, and found he was less than opposed to a nap himself. He must have dozed off, because when he woke up, it was to his phone going off. He had, again, somehow, ended up laying long ways on the couch, tangled up with Lust comfortably, soaking in his warmth. Red had slid down to sit on the floor, leaving the two of them with more leg room as he watched TV with the volume on low. His crimson eyelids snapped to Dance at the sound of his phone, but Lust didn't stir. Dance carefully disentangled himself enough to get to his phone, answering it.
Hey bro, what's up?
Brother! Pap's voice came over the receiver, lower than normal and lacking his usual enthusiasm. We need to talk. Can you come home, please? Dance looked down at himself, his free hand smoothing over Lust's skull, dipping under his collar on every downstroke, sending tiny sparks of magic through his hand as his pinky brushed the leather. Lust made a soft, happy noise, snuggling more into Dance's ribcage.
Yeah, I'll be home soon.
Papyrus hung up without another word, a bad sign. Dance can't remember the last time Paps had been so serious. He tucked his phone away, pressing his forehead to Lust in a facsimile of a goodbye kiss, before worming his way off the couch and heading for the door. He didn't have the guts to look Red in the eye or say a word. Coward. He should just say something, but no, he has to be as gutless emotionally as he is physically. It wasn't like he knew the words to use anyway. And what did it matter? Even if he did manage to get past the awkward maze of all the shit they had done to each other, they still didn't have anything in common. Except lust. But that didn't count, right? Right. Dance took his shortcut right before he reached the doorknob, appearing in his bedroom right in front of his own door, and walking out into the hallway of his and his brother's apartment.
Paps, I'm home.
In the living room, came his brother's voice. Dance made his way down the hall and around the corner. There was his brother, sitting cross-legged on the couch, another bad sign, since he never sat down unless he was tired, someone had asked him to for the sake of courtesy, or there was a particularly unpalatable emotion he didn't want to broadcast with his movements. And nobody else was in the apartment. Dance stuffed his hands in his pockets, putting on a lazy smile.
Hey bro, how was work today?
Usually that was a good way to cheer him up, talking about his work. It was wonderful, as always, Paps replied, running his thumb along the edge of his phone, the rest of his body unnaturally still. One of the students asked about you today, wanting singing lessons.
Singing lessons?
Dance chuckled.
I haven't done any kind of performing in years. You know that.
Do I? Papyrus flipped up his phone, showing a YouTube video. She wanted help because she's actually playing a lead role at the local community college and hadn't quite gotten the numbers down. However, she was under the impression you knew them quite well. He pushed play on the video, turning up the audio until it was on full blast.
Anything you can be, I can be greater. Sooner or later, I'm greater than you.
It was rough and low and deep and hazed by inhibition. It was a voice that made Dance's memory itch. But while the voice itself caught his attention, what made it all the more mesmerizing was that it was clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, Red there in the video. In the video, Dance saw himself take up from there, and the two of them went back and forth seamlessly. Dance had no memory of this at all. But as he watched, he could almost feel the pressure on his wrist, smell the intoxicating aroma of smoke and watermelon and Madeira and whiskey, see that hazed-over sparkle of playfulness and something more in a hooded socket. It took until the end of the video, when he could see Lust moving forward to scoop the both of them up, for Dance to realize what exactly it was he had just seen. Red had seen a musical enough to memorize the lyrics and had sung it with him. Red could sing. Red had propositioned him. Dance could feel his magic swelling to his face. "I hope that is a blush of mortification, brother," Papyrus said, reminding Dance his brother was still in the room. "Sans, you broke your promise." "I did?" Dance asked, his mind not fully concentrating on the conversation anymore. "You promised me no more of this alcohol nonsense, and yet you are clearly quite inebriated in this video, in public, making a fool of yourself." Papyrus's voice rose with every denouncement. "You know this isn't healthy. It is bad enough you will not perform or dance when you seem to need it more than ever, but I thought you would at least keep your promise to me to stay safe and out of trouble." He shut the phone off, rubbing his face. "But now I find you have been drinking, and you stay out late, only stars know where, almost every night, with who knows what kind of people, doing only God knows what, and when you do come home, you canoodle with the fruit, and I just do not know what to make of your behavior." Dance flinched, his soul trembling and swelling and sparking irritably with embarrassment and guilt and worry and anger. "I'm sorry. I've never been good at keeping promises, Pap. But I don't think it's something you need to worry about. I'm the older brother. I think I know." "But you don't," Papyrus interrupted him. "You say you know what you need, but you don't." Paps rubbed his face. And maybe I do not know either. But I do know that you're not doing well. I think you should go see Dr. "I told you before, I am not bothering Alphys with a case of nothing." Dance deflected, as he had done so many times before. "You need your soul examined," Papyrus insisted. "Nope, I don't. Drop it." "I am not willing to drop it if it means dropping you and letting you go off cavorting with people who will not encourage you to do better, who will let you hurt yourself and say nothing." Dance froze. His brother had always been a naive, optimistic monster who believed anyone could be better if they tried. The words which had just come out of his brother's mouth were honestly the single worst insults his brother had ever given another living creature. It was tantamount to calling them vagabonds, to calling Lust and Red unworthy of his attention and affection. Dance had never been angry at Papyrus before in his life. He loved his brother dearly. This was probably the closest to anger at him he had ever come. "Paps, bro, you don't even know them." "You are right about that as well," Papyrus continued. "You have clearly been associating with these two for some time, and canoodling with the big one, and yet—" "Canoodling?" Dance sputtered. "Yes, Sans, canoodling. It is what date mates do, an example of which is now on the internet of you and this large edgy fellow." "Red and I were not canoodling," Dance defended, feeling his face burn harder. "You are a very good liar, but not about this. Not to me, Sans. For Star's sake, he had you in a traditional smooching position. You were inches from exchanging slime. Please, keep up with your own dating status, if nothing else." Dance pulled up his hood and hid in it as he sat down on the couch beside his brother, unable to suppress a groan of emotional anguish. "Now," Papyrus continued, "as I was saying, you have been canoodling with a date mate. You haven't even brought them home to introduce me, so I can engage in the traditional sibling event of embarrassing you." "That's parents, bro," was all Dance could think to answer. "True, but as we lack them at the moment, I must fill in. Unless you think we should invite Miss Toriel over to cover the role." "Absolutely not," Dance said faster than he thought himself capable of. Papyrus sighed. "Brother, I worry about you. I know you can do better, and maybe I do not have the best view of these companions you have, but you haven't exactly given me the chance to meet them either, and learning about a whole other life you've apparently been living through a YouTube video isn't fair to me, just as it isn't fair to you." "I told you I've been spending time with friends," Dance tried to defend himself. "Which I assumed meant Grillby, who at least cares enough to never sell you something you should not be having," Papyrus reminded him. "Have you even let these new friends of yours know about your problem?" "I don't have a problem," Dance retorted, crossing his arms. I promised you I'd lay off the wine to make you feel better, but I don't have a problem. Papyrus scooted closer, pulling Dance into a hug. You do have a problem. I just wish you would see it. Seeing a problem is the first step to solving it, after all. He squeezed a little tighter. I worry about you, Sans. Dance hugged back, knowing it was the least he could do. I know. Dance ended up agreeing to ask Lust and Red over for dinner, although he made it clear that he wouldn't know when they would be available for it, especially given Red was moving. Paps was, blessedly, merciful about the whole thing. That bought Dance some time to untangle the mess that had been made of his apparent relationship, if that's really what you could call it, which Dance did not. At all. What relationship? What canoodling? Paps was crazy. Dance had to shortcut home from work the next day during every single break, just to scream into a pillow, because apparently work wasn't enough to chase away the mental image or the shadows of forgotten memories. It was a heavenly boon when his boss told him he could clock out early. Dance took a shortcut to Lust's apartment, needing a little warmth and stability. It was only when he got there and found Red sleeping on the couch, alone, that Dance remembered Lust had work today too. Dance stepped closer to the couch, looking over Red. He'd had a shower, now wearing a mustard yellow shirt and red boxer shorts. A lilac blanket with pink bone prints was crumpled on the floor by the couch, having apparently slid off of him at some point after he drifted. He was clutching to one of the cushions, snoring softly as he drooled on it. Red's coat was there on the back of the couch, unoccupied at the moment. Dance seriously considered borrowing it. Just for a little while. Just for a bit. Just until Red wakes up and he can try talking this out again. Dance shook his head, turning his attention to Red himself. The video echoed in his head, shifting back and forth between the third-person perspective and the hazy, shredded memories diluted by alcohol. Dance picked up the discarded blanket, leaning over Red to tuck it around him. Before he could pull back, Red's claws snaked out, snatching at Dance's wrist, his hold tight and unyielding. Red's socket snapped open, sharp and dangerous. Dance stared back at him, a shiver of fear shaking him to his core, that maybe he had been right all along, maybe it had all been a trick, maybe... Then the doubts were gone, and Red's grip loosened to something more delicate, firm but unresistant.
Dance?
Red asked, voice rough from sleep. We need to talk. Dance blurted. Again. Red groaned, letting go of Dance and rolling over, pulling the pastel purple blanket over his head.
Let me alone,
he mumbled, voice muffled by sleep and the cushion he was smushing himself into. Dance just stood there, blinking down dumbly at the sight before him. Here was a monster, LV-14, who could have taken on a gang of thugs single-handedly, who drank and smoked and gambled with other similarly experienced and dangerous monsters, who was covered in scars, built like a tank, and could easily crush him with both hands tied behind his back. Here was that same monster, hiding under a pastel purple knitted blanket from a talk with him. Surely Dance would be forgiven for laughing, the ridiculousness of the picture before him overriding any annoyance he might have been feeling at the moment.
Fuck you,
Red growled, sounding more petulant than angry.
Is that an invitation?
Dance asked.
What?
Red looked over his shoulder, peeking out from under the blanket.
I said.
Dance started, suddenly realizing how much of an idiot he sounded like, how foolish and forward and utterly humiliating.
I said,
He backed up a step, stuffing his hands in his pockets.
Just seems like a blanket invitation.
Red growled.
Don't even fucking start.
Quilt the accident, I assure you. Dance lied, like a liar.
Nah, see...
Red sat up, moving slowly, tossing the blanket aside with one hand as he reached for Dance with the other.
Pretty sure you're just chicken to put your money where your mouth is.
Never been one to eat my words, Dance retorted, tensing as he felt Red's claw grip at his hoodie, felt that gentle, tentative pressure as Red tugged just enough to coax him in his direction, but not pull him anywhere.
I got something better for that mouth to do than rattle off shitty puns,
Red grumbled, keeping his voice low even as he guided Dance to come closer. Dance took the few steps needed to close the distance between them, finding himself standing between Red's splayed legs.
What, my humor not your taste?
Dance asked. Red clicked his teeth.
Puns are B-tier jokes at best, and everyone knows it. Puns are hilarious,
Dance argued, though even he could hear his voice lacked any real bite to it. Why was he so comfortable, standing like this, with Red's claws so close to his throat?
But I'll give you one thing, there's more entertaining stuff out there.
Yeah, like knock-knock jokes. Red huffed.
No.
Dance huffed back, gripping Red's wrist and yanking it off him before leaning forward enough to pin it to the back of the couch, one foot coming up to step on the cushion between Red's legs, letting him gain another inch in height by arching onto his toes.
Like the noises you were making during our vacation.
Red's expression went slack, eyelight going out from shock before it returned, smoldering, muted, shimmering with that lighter color Dance still couldn't quite identify.
Oh, kitten's got claws,
he snarked, leaning back as Dance loomed over him, sinking lower into the couch, nullifying the height difference between them.
What you gonna do, scratch me?
Among other things. Dance growled at him, and he didn't miss the way Red's body shivered, how his fingers twitched and his face glimmered faintly with ruby light. The scent of watermelon and smoke and salt drifted faintly into the air. Dance leaned forward.
And if we're talking claws, I think it's you who's the kitten.
Red gulped visibly, the light dusting of magic swelling over his nasal ridge to a pleasant shimmering pink. Stars, Dance wanted to see that light all over. Dance pressed his thumb into Red's metacarpals, running slowly over the spaces between them. He could feel the energy there, the hum of a dangerous, powerful song, the chill of winter, the strength of the wind, the taste of watermelon. Each brush of his thumbs threw up sparks of protection and safety, sending a rush straight down to Dance's disobedient soul.
Don't think I'm just...
Red suddenly cut off, his attention shifting from Dance to something behind him, his face turning a deeper shade of crimson.
Am I interrupting something?
Lust's voice asked, laced with hope and amusement. Dance stood there, frozen, looking over his shoulder at Lust, uncertain what the correct response here was supposed to be. Part of him was drowning in humiliation and shame. The other half just wanted to pick up where he'd left off, because he'd been onto something. He was finally getting what he wanted. It was literally right there in his hands. He can't stop now. But the moment was over. Now, instead of the confidence and curiosity that had been fueling his advances, Dance was sinking into embarrassment. He let go of Red's wrist and pulled back, going to hide in Lust's warmth from the shame of it all. What had he even been thinking? No way is he bringing up dinner with his brother tonight. Red yanked on his coat, feeling overly exposed and vulnerable. He didn't quite know how to process the last few minutes. He'd woken up from his nap after again hunting for a job, this time online. Lust's Wi-Fi was amazing. And there was Dance. And then Dance was not running away, not cowering, not hiding, not judging him. He thought it might have been a dream. He did occasionally get nice ones, although it certainly wasn't often. Then Lust had shown up, and Red had known it wasn't a dream. And that meant what exactly? Red could only come to the conclusion that Dance had been genuinely propositioning him. What he couldn't figure out was why. Why would he do that? What did Dance have to gain? He already had Lust. He already had Red's, admittedly less than stellar, protection and business. He had done nothing but despise and fear him since they first met. So what exactly had changed? Was he playing with him? Red clicked his teeth irritably. He hadn't pegged Dance as the type to go out of his way to be cruel. Even so, it wasn't completely off the table. Red had just exposed himself as having numerous vulnerabilities, and he was still a competitor for Lust's attention. Dance might be trying to use a new tactic to get rid of him. Red swallowed, stuffing his hands in his pockets. He'd have to be more vigilant. He'd lost enough standing as it was. Lust finished greeting Dance, affectionate and caring as ever, and pulled away to plant himself in Red's lap. "Don't I get a welcome home?" he asked, wiggling his bone brows. Red smirked, his mood lifting somewhat as he pulled Lust into his hold. He still had his sweetheart, if nothing else. God knows why, but Lust hadn't changed in the least, so far. If anything, he was even more excited, even more affectionate. "Welcome home, sweetheart," Red rumbled, liking the way the phrase rolled between his teeth. Lust beamed at him, nuzzling his skull against Red's. "Did you finish unpacking?" Red shrugged. "Why bother? Just gonna move again soon anyway." Lust grinned. "Yeah, after we find you that summer job, we'll have to go apartment hunting together." Lust purred, nuzzling. "Maybe invest in a 3-bedroom. Red felt his magic warm. "You talk like you want to make this a permanent thing." "You don't?" Lust asked, voice and face going serious and alert. "I didn't say that." Red spat quickly. "Just didn't think you would want a guy who can't pay rent half the year." Lust shut Red up, words and thoughts all in one fell swoop, with a gentle clack of his teeth against Red's straining grin, which relaxed considerably. "Sweetheart, you have no idea how excited I am about living with you." Red chuckled. "Damn, here I thought I was supposed to be welcoming you home." "You did," Lust answered, nuzzling again. "But we won't be moving anywhere for a while, so I think you'll feel more at home if you unpack a bit." Dance moved to sit on the other end of the couch, pulling a juice box out of nowhere, probably his phone's dimension box, and sipping from it as he flipped the TV on and looked for something to watch. Red shrugged. "Don't really got much anyway. Just clothes, stuff for work, a few bits of sentimental rubbish in my collection. Not really worth dragging it all out." Lust pouted a bit, but shrugged his shoulders. "If you say so, sweetie," he hummed, clearly less than satisfied with Red's answer, but not enough to push. Red chuckled. "You just want to snoop through my shit's what you want." "Is that so wrong?" Lust asked, striking a dramatic pose on his knees, before falling to one side so his head landed in Dance's lap, gracefully switching to snuggling against the other monster. Dance jumped a bit, but his smile softened, settling one hand against Lust's neck and jaw, stroking the joint with the side of his finger. Red could feel how his fingers stirred the magic of the collar, brushing against it. He felt the intent to cherish, to comfort. As Red stroked idly at Lust's legs still in his lap, he decided it would have to be good enough that Dance gave Lust those things. He didn't really need them for himself anyway. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, hit the like button to let me know and subscribe to see what I make next. Links in the description lead to the original fic posted on AO3, as well as my Patreon and Ko-fi. If you like my stuff, please consider supporting me. Every little bit helps. Lastly, if you have a request for a recording, whether a one-shot or a series, let me know in the comments. I also do commissions, details of which are on my Patreon. So keep in touch. Bye!